Hey everyone, welcome to Behind the Work, the show for the very ambitious person who is looking to level up their lives, their careers, and their businesses. I'm your host, Jessica Santana, and if this is your first time tuning in, I want to say welcome to the show. So today's topic is one of my favorite topics to talk about because it has been a skill that I feel that I have mastered over the course of my career. And it is the topic of networking, building relationships, and nurturing your social capital. So, when I was really early on in my career, I cringed at the idea of building a social network. I thought that networking was a word that felt cheesy and sleazy, and it made me feel like I was only building relationships with people, or I was being encouraged to build relationships with people that were inauthentic because I was trying to extract something from them. And I didn't like that. I believe that the most important work that we do on this earth is the work that we do with humans. And the idea of only being in relation with somebody because I was trying to get something from them didn't sit well with my heart or my soul or my spirit. And then something changed for me fundamentally when I started seeing how relationships were accelerating people's career or people's businesses at a rate that mine was not. And I don't like to play the comparison game, but I realized that I had my mindset very incorrect about how things in the world work. I had always been taught that you keep your head down, that you work hard, and that opportunities will come your way. And as time has progressed, I have realized that that is only true to an extent. You can be a hard worker and you can keep your head down and you will produce phenomenal results. But if you want to get to the next level, relationships are going to be the key driver to that success. There was one instance where I saw people getting promotions, getting invited to dinners, being put on platforms that were not as qualified as I was. But what I realized that they did well that I didn't do was build relationships with the right people who started believing in them. So it didn't matter how hard they worked, and it didn't matter whether or not I was actually more qualified than them on paper and on results. What mattered was whether or not I was investing in the relationships with the decision makers and with the people who held those opportunities. And even now, I get a little frustrated when I talk about this topic because I do believe that talent should trump everything. But the reality of the situation is that if you know that relationships are going to be a key driver to your success and you are not investing in them, you're only playing in your own face. And so there are four things that I want to discuss in today's episode that I think is going to help you in accelerating some of the ways in which you think about networking, some of the ways in which you build systems around networking, and then considerations for yourself in terms of how you want to show up in the relationships that you are building and nurturing. Tip number one, you have to have a proactive mindset when it comes to relationship building, not a reactive one. A proactive mindset to relationship building looks like nurturing and watering your relationships with people over periods of time without an expected return. I believe that one of the biggest mistakes that professionals and founders and leaders and entrepreneurs make in their relationship building strategies in building their networks is only reaching out to people when they need something. You don't want to make people feel used, and you don't want people to feel like you are operating from a transactional place. I believe that we all need things. We all need doors open for us. We all need resources to get us to the next level. But I do believe that how we go about acquiring those resources and how we go about opening those doors is equally as important as getting the resource and opening the doors. And when you're building relationships with people who can help you, the last thing they want is to feel like they helped you and then they don't hear from you again for a really long time. And also, you don't want to just hit people up when you need them. I've been the receiver of various messages from people that I haven't talked to in such a long time. And it hasn't been that I haven't wanted to help them. It's just that I don't even know what you're up to help you. You know, a short text message goes a long way. Checking in with people in an email format goes a long way. And I believe that the first thing that you have to ingrain in your mind when you are building relationships with people is the fact that everyone wants to be treated with respect and with dignity, and everyone wants their humanities centered. And so, before you start to actively build your network and make asks, ask yourself whether or not you have been pouring into your relationships from a proactive mindset. And if you haven't been, you should do an inventory of what you can be doing differently to start building in habits that have you have a proactive relationship building approach versus a reactive building a relationship building approach. Tip number two is to establish strategies and systems that help you nurture your networks. After you've done an inventory about maybe some of the behaviors that you have to change within your life to help you establish a proactive relationship building approach, you also have to institutionalize and create a system and a strategy for how you're going to execute against having a proactive relationship building approach. We are very busy professionals. I'm a busy professional. You're a busy professional. We all have lives that we have to take care of, responsibilities at work, responsibilities in our homes. But I believe that with the right systems in place, you can be creative about how you nurture your networks over time. Here are some tips from my own proactive strategies and systems for relationship building. When I know that I'm going to be on the road for an extended period of time where I might have the ability to catch up with someone for coffee or catch up with someone for lunch or dinner, I absolutely make sure to take advantage of that. I am on the road quite often for my business and for my work. And I want to be able to take advantage of the fact that I'm in these places to check in on people in person. I believe that virtual communication like emails and texts are dope. I believe the occasional Instagram or LinkedIn message is cool, but there is nothing better than to see people in person. So when I'm on the road, I try to see people in person as much as possible. And when I know I'm going to be heading there, I simply send an email or a text message to one of my people and I'm like, hey, I'm going to be in town during X time. Are you going to be around? And usually, more often than not, they say yes. And we're getting together over breakfast or lunch or dinner. And that gives me the opportunity to have an intimate conversation with them, see how they're doing, check in on them, their well being, their families. And it leaves, right? It leaves room for me to really get to know what they've been up to, and then also gives me a sense of how I might be able to help them. You know, a lot of my friends are careerists, they are entrepreneurs, where maybe someone that I know, maybe a client that I work with, or another relationship that I have, I can bring them together. But I wouldn't necessarily be able to mine that kind of information if I don't have them in front of me to be able to check in on them and their well being. So, another thing to consider is if you know you're going to be somewhere for a certain period of time and you know that that is not a significant amount of time where you'll be able to do a whole bunch of one on ones with folks, is you can consider bringing people together. A few weeks ago, I was at LA All Star Weekend and I knew that I was not going to be able to see everyone that I know in LA. It just was not going to work out timing wise. And so rather than trying to schedule a whole bunch of one-on-ones, I ended up getting some free tickets from the NBA to the HBCU Classic, and I brought my friends along with me to the game, and we got to catch up really briefly at the game. We caught good vibes, we laughed with one another, but they also got to know each other, which I also think is part of nurturing your network, is making strategic introductions for people. Another example of how I do this is that I curate breakfast, lunch, or dinners in the cities that I go. I bring a whole bunch of founders together. I did this in LA a few months ago as well. I brought some amazing founders, and we didn't even talk about work or our businesses. We literally talked about mental health, wellness, our families, and it was such a good vibe. And so that is another way to consider proactively nurturing your network. Another system and strategy you can consider is sharing your friends' posts. I know that this sounds bananas, but in the age of social media, whether or not we like it, folks want to feel supported. And sharing your friends' posts sends them the message that you are being supportive. So it doesn't cost you anything to just hit repost on Instagram or just to hit repost on LinkedIn. Your network really appreciates being seen and being heard and seeing that you value their online content. As someone who right now is a content creator, I cannot tell you how exciting it is when I see one of my friends post one of my videos or reels to their stories or likes one of my posts on LinkedIn. And whether we realize it or not, a lot of folks undervalue social media and make it seem like it's not a big deal. But it is a big deal. And one way to nurture your network is to show them that you are willing to share your digital real estate with them. It truly does not cost you anything to just hit a button and show people that you're supportive of their content. Another thing you can do is once a week sit down and look through your contacts, right? And ask yourself, who are the folks that I haven't spoken to in a long time? And just shoot them a quick text message. Text messages are so underrated when it comes to networking. You should definitely take advantage of the tool. I think that one of the best things you can do is send someone a message that says, "Hey, how are you? You've been on my spirit, checking in. Would love to hear what you've been up to." And interestingly enough, they share a lot via text message. I recently found out that one of my homegirls is having a baby. I found out about an engagement. I found out about, just stuff going on with people's families. And this is not stuff that's on social media. It's not publicly available information. But because we have that kind of rapport with one another, they're willing to share that kind of information with me via text. And so having text messages as part of your systems and strategies for checking in on people is really like a low effort way to keep in touch. And trust me, folks really remember when you send them a kind note. Another thing you can do is forward emails with opportunities to folks in your network. I get emails all of the time about fellowships or programs or funding opportunities or folks that are willing to invest in certain kind of startups. And rather than letting those things sit in my inbox in a thread, I hit forward to the people in my network that the opportunity is most relevant to. So if I have a friend that is working on some social justice initiatives, I'm going to forward her some social justice initiative opportunities that are coming through my inbox. If I have a friend that's working in climate tech, I'm going to forward that friend that kind of opportunity. It positions you as a resource and it allows your network to see you as a source of help before they even are asking for help. And I think that when you come to the table helping people without them even asking for you to help, it positions you from a place of generosity, and they're always going to remember you as someone who is actively thinking about them all the time. Another practice that you can implement in building a strong and proactive relationship building strategy is to be generous with your networks. A lot of us try to hoard our relationships out of the sake of protecting our reputation and our brands. And I understand why that is necessary. We build trust with people over time, and we want to protect those relationships. And at the same time, when you make connections, you also just position yourself to be a generous individual. Social capital is the difference between a deal that gets done and a deal that doesn't get done. And I believe that when we leverage our networks to help alleviate barriers for people to get the things that they need to be successful, we also win in the process. They're always going to remember us as the folks who helped open a door or helped become a lever to their success. And I don't know about you guys, but I get really excited by the potential to create that kind of network effect and that kind of impact among my social circle. I know how important it has been for me to get connections and for me to have doors of opportunities be opened through my social networks, that I want to be able to mirror that for my friends and for my networks as well. And the other tip that I want to give about building a proactive relationship strategy is to make sure that you are showing up for moments that matter. Listen, I understand that going to the wedding and going to the birthday out of state and going to people's baby showers can be really expensive, especially if you're doing that multiple times per year. Sometimes for me, it's multiple times per week or month because that's how extensive my network is. But I can assure you that that pays dividends in the long term. Being able to show up for people during the moments that matter is something that they will always, always remember. And so when you are considering developing strategies for proactive relationship building, just know that showing up in physical presence for the moments that matter to the people in your network is really important. You don't want to miss the birthday. You don't want to miss the moments that really speak to the evolution of people's lives, and the fact that they're inviting you to be a part of these big milestones is something that should make you feel honored that they want you in that room. And so as much as you can, show up for them. It does make the world of a difference. Another tip for all of you who are trying to build proactive relationship building strategies is to consider a networking plan. Develop a networking plan. For me, I want to be building new relationships. I think we should be building new relationships all the time whenever we can. And so I've committed to at least once per week making sure that I am going out in my local community and in my city to meet other kinds of people. I think that for me right now, the food, the wellness, the health space, the lifestyle space is really exciting. And I don't have a lot of folks that are in wellness or health or food. And so I want to be building my Rolodex and building my relationships in that industry, in those industries. I've not done that before. And I really want to be able to meet like minded people who share these kinds of interests. And so my goal is to put myself out there once per week. You have to determine what is right for you. It might not be once a week, it might not be twice a week, it might be once a month. And if you can commit to actually going out once a month and leaving that event with at least one contact, I think that you are going to be on the right track. Another thing to consider as you are building your relationships is to join a local board. If you are more junior in your career, maybe you can join a junior board. If you know a nonprofit that you are very passionate about, maybe you start volunteering with their volunteer corps and see who you can meet there, and then eventually become a part of their board of directors. That's been a phenomenal way for me to network. I've joined two boards in the last couple of months, and it's been such a great opportunity because not only do I get to give back, but I also have the opportunity to work with folks who are extremely intelligent and extremely talented. And so getting involved in your local community through boards or through volunteerism is another way that you can really be meeting new people. Another way that you can build new relationships is by using social media. You can use platforms like LinkedIn or Threads or Instagram to find out if people want to meet up and grab a coffee and you guys get to know one another. I know a lot of these platforms, maybe not LinkedIn, maybe not Threads, but I know Instagram, people go in there to shoot their shots and stuff like that. But you could also shoot your shot professionally. If you've been following someone and you like their content and you think their content is dope, comment and let them know that you think their content is dope, or send them a message and ask them if they be willing to connect. I think that these platforms are there for a reason. We should be using them very productively. And so if you can use these platforms to build your network, I think you'll be setting yourself up for success. So, we talked about the mindset needed to build a proactive relationship strategy and some tips and tricks to help nurture that relationship strategy, as well as some new ideas for building new relationships into your life. But I also want to give you all some considerations as you are starting to cultivate and nurture new relationships and your existing network. The first thing I want to share is that you shouldn't only focus on networking with people who are more senior than you. You should also focus on networking with folks who are across from you and also folks who are more junior to you. The reason for this is that, sure, folks at the top can certainly serve as champions and allies and sponsors, but when you don't network across and you don't network with folks that are more junior than you, you miss the opportunity to be a part of people's journey, and you also miss the opportunity to lift as you climb. So make sure that as you are thinking about building your relationship strategy, that you're not just thinking about how to network with folks that are more senior to you. The second thing I want to share is don't take anything personal when you are networking. There are going to be folks that don't want to build a relationship with you, and you have to be okay with that. Sometimes it doesn't even have anything to do with you. It has to do with their own capacity and their own ability to really honor a relationship of integrity and dignity. And so, what you don't want to do is force relationships on people. I believe that when you force things or you don't operate from a place of authenticity, you don't get good outcomes and you actually might rub people the wrong way. So just know that in your relationship building journey, there are going to be people that are in your life that excite you, that you want to get to know, but it might just not be the time for you all to break bread with one another. And then the last thing I want to share for your consideration is to make sure that when you are networking and that you are building relationships, that you keep it simple and you do the things that work for you. All of the things that I outlined here, they work for me. I love meeting people one on one. I love curating environments for folks to get together and see me and see each other. I love sending text messages. I love forwarding emails. I love going out once or twice per week to meet new people, right? But if these are the strategies that don't work for you, then don't do them. But figure out what does work for you, because relationships are important. I can honestly say that the key driver to success for me as an entrepreneur, as a CEO, and as a founder has been my relationships with people and how seriously I take them. And when you consider where you're trying to go in your career, please always remember that hard work is important, that your product is important, but sometimes it is not enough. So, thanks so much for tuning in today. If you like today's episode, give it a thumbs up on YouTube, subscribe to YouTube, follow us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and follow us on social media. I look forward to seeing you all next Tuesday. Mwah. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Behind the Work. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure that you subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and follow us on social media. I'm really looking forward to seeing and hearing how this show is leaving an impact on you.